My daughter Shiloh hates shots. Whenever Jen and I take her to the doctor and she has to get a shot, there's a lot of crying and screaming. And that's just Jen and I. Seriously though, Shiloh has a deep fear of shots. If you've ever had the experience with your kids, you know how difficult it can be to watch them go through that pain. I would much rather have the needle puncture my skin instead of hers. But I know that the medication she is receiving will make her strong, healthier, and ultimately lead to a better future for her. The Bible often compares our relationship with God to that of a father and his child. And just like all children, we have a tendency to disobey our Heavenly Father. We make choices that defy Him, hurt Him, and disappoint Him. In other words, we sin against Him. And those sins bring consequences that can wreak havoc in our lives. Your sin, more than anything else, brings about broken relationships, damaged bodies, loss of freedom, embarrassment, poverty, and many other problems. And when our Heavenly Father sees us experiencing that type of pain from those consequences, I know He wishes that He could just take it away immediately. But as a loving Father, He also realizes that those consequences may be the very thing that turn us back on our path of following Him. And that's why He doesn't always just jump in and rescue us out of those painful times. But He does promise this. Just as Jen and I hold Shiloh's hands when she is close to having one of those painful shots, your Heavenly Father, God Himself, promises to hold us through whatever consequences we are facing. He promises us His grace and strength to walk through those difficulties and come out stronger on the other side. As you go through this session, I want to encourage you to do some soul searching and ask God if there is any sin that is getting in the way of the peace that you have with Him. And if so, confess that to Him. And He promises that He will bring us forgiveness and healing. Not only that, but He will give us the power to make the right choices and avoid those consequences altogether, because He loves us and He wants us to have the best possible life. Now, I want you to hear from a good friend of mine named Doug. Doug spent a lot of his life trying to find happiness his way, which led him to a lot of pain and emptiness. It wasn't until he surrendered himself to God when he discovered true happiness can be found by giving yourself away and following the plan God has for your life. Check out this video.
I'm Doug Shipley. I've been coming to the jar off and on at first for about a year, and then recently I haven't missed a Sunday. I've just been really blessed with the jar. Before I found God, I spent a lot of time drinking and carrying on with my friends and, sleeping around. I had children out of wedlock because of my poor decisions and, clouded by drugs and alcohol and just making terrible choices. And I'm still trying to build relationships with some of my children because I didn't pull myself out of that lifestyle and the depression, and I felt like I wasn't capable of helping children because I couldn't even stand on my own 2 feet. So that really affected relationships with my children, to the point where I basically didn't have any relationship at all with a couple of my kids. I always thought I would miss something if I didn't go out and party and hang out with my buddies. And what I didn't realize I was missing at the time was my family and my children's lives. I missed so many of my family events, and following the path I was on, it just led to emptiness, brokenness, depression, no self-worth. I was lost. My two oldest boys and I were talking one night, and I was just flooded with emotion, and everything that had transpired through my life was just flooding back to me, and I realized as I was talking to them how much I had missed out on, and how I had been thinking lately about, I'd been developing a good relationship with my two oldest boys, and it started thinking about things from a fatherly perspective. And I started thinking about God, and here I am, with the responsibility of these two boys weighing on me, and his responsibility is every one of us. And that's what truly made it click in my mind. That night, I poured out every bottle of booze in my house in front of my kids, and told them I was done. And I made a deal with God, and I told him I was done, and I needed him to watch out for me and the boys, because I knew that example and just the way I was living was showing them the wrong path. And it sounds fun and everything, and you think it's fun, but when you look back at it, it's really tragic. I had such a good time last night. Well, what'd you do? I can't remember. It just really was an eye-opening experience, and it changed me totally. My mom's always been steadfast, a woman of faith, always there to catch us when we fall. And then the next morning after I quit drinking, I texted her and told her I was done drinking. And she had just read Galatians 5:1, where it talks about throwing off the yoke of slavery. That was the verse for me. And then the next verse she read and sent to me was Galatians 6:9, which was her verse, is keep doing good, for in due time it will come back to you. And it did, and it did through God changing my life, because she always did good. I was going about 125 miles an hour and flew off an exit ramp. And when I came to, my sunroof was sitting next to me in the car, and every single part of that vehicle that could be damaged was damaged. And I had minor scrapes from where my window had shattered. So God has been watching out for me since way before I decided to submit myself and realize, what He is and what all He's done for me. So since quitting drinking, I've really dedicated my time to others, and instead of sleeping all day on the weekends because I was drunk the night before, I'm volunteering with the church, doing things like helping my neighbors with groceries, just anything I can to fill my time with good things that have a positive impact on people as opposed to negative. And it's been fulfilling, rewarding. I'm full, and I know now what I heard my whole life growing up, which was the peace that passes understanding. Well, I understand it now because I have it. And it truly does pass understanding, because I never would have thought that this peace could be possible with the way I lived my life before. I ended up at the Jar through Jamie McKinley. We've been dating for about 3 years now, and just seeing her with her struggles and the fact that she still is so giving really opened my eyes, and that's really what got me going with the volunteering through the Jar. And it's been a home. It's been a home to me. I had been baptized in the church I grew up in when I was 8, but that was before my rebellious days. And Jamie's son Kyle, talking to him, and he showed interest in getting baptized, and I had been thinking about it a lot, and it's funny because we had a conversation about him getting baptized and if it would be easier for him, less anxiety for him if I did it with him. And little did he know, he was taking my anxiety. So since the baptism, one of my daughters that I never had a relationship with, her best friend reached out to me, and just out of nowhere, and I know that's God working through my life, and I found out that she's a cheerleader at her school, and recently I was able to go and watch her cheer. And also my best friend growing up, we had a falling out several years ago, and recently we've been talking, and that's a blessing. He's always been like a brother to me, and it hurt me deeply when we had the falling out. So I can see God opening doors in front of me constantly, and it's amazing. When your heart truly changes, you can see Him all around you in everything, everywhere, every day. And that's what's amazing. That's what I love seeing every day. God working through this world. I'm definitely happier now than trying to do things the worldly way, because the worldly way is full of emptiness and stress and sorrow. And once you give your life to God and living the right way, He will take you places you never imagined and fill you up more than you ever thought you could be, and give you the peace that you've been looking for your whole life. What makes me happy? Doing for others, being there when my family needs me, and just waking up every day and knowing that I'm loved by God, and I'm truly blessed.